up, family? It is time for another edition.
All right. Turn that off. It's a little bit of a balancing act to get everything up and running. All right. So Kadeem is on. I see you join, but I don't see your face on the screen yet.
I'm gonna say request to join because I didn't get that.
Okay.
I see Instagram is delayed. Instagram is delayed too.
All right.
I just sent you a request.
It says Kadeem is unable to, all right, there we go. View request, go live. All right. All right, we gotta do the balancing act, man. It's a nice little balancing act, getting everything together. All right, hold on.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. How's this gonna work?
All right, give me a second. All right, so turn the volume down on your computer.
I turned it like all the way down.
Okay, that should do it. All right, now what we'll do is I gotta get everything set up on Facebook. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for logging in. We got a couple things we got to do to get the feed across all of the channels. So take a bathroom break, grab your dinner, grab your water. Kadeem, make sure you got some water. All right, good to go, good to go. All right, so I just tagged you on Facebook. So when you get a chance, go ahead and share that feed on Facebook. What's up? We got everybody popping in. Good to see everybody. All right. So, we are almost there. Just bear with us. Bear with us. All right, Kadeem, we are almost there, brother. Kadeem. All right, Brewer. All right, so I am tagging you now on LinkedIn. All right, so you are official on LinkedIn. We'll double check Facebook. All right, I think we are good to go. Pull up my comments section. It's a lot of orchestrating behind the scenes, man, to get this thing right, but we are just about there. All right, let's see. All right, so now what we have to do. All right, what's up, everybody hopping in? Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. All right, so we got to do just a volume check. Let me know if you're watching on Facebook. Do me a favor and just drop something in the comments to let me know that you can actually hear us through our live feed on Facebook. We're also live on Instagram, so if you want to hop on Instagram and watch, you can do that as well. Give us a thumbs up, give us a comment, say we can hear you on Instagram, also Facebook, LinkedIn. We're also live on YouTube. So just wherever you are, do me a favor and say we can hear you or I can hear you. We need that. Got to make sure that the volume is straight across the board.
Let us know if y'all can hear us.
All right, see some hellos. All right, we look good on Instagram. Thank you for your engagement. All right, let's see. I got a comment on Facebook. Let me see. How does that look? All right, good. We're good on Facebook. It's a slight echo. All right, cool. So if you're watching on LinkedIn, let me know how bad the echo is. It's a little difficult because since we're going live across LinkedIn and Facebook, and particularly across Instagram, we have to use multiple devices. So it kind of creates an echo. So we're trying to make sure that we get that taken care of as best we can. But there will be a slight echo. So hopefully it's not too bad. And then actually, I'm going to turn my volume down on my computer. I'm going to do one more mic check. If you're watching on Facebook and LinkedIn, please let me know that you can hear. Okay, really intense on it. Okay. All right, I made some volume adjustments. Let me know if that helps, Amber. All right, man. We got some fans. That's right. We got some fans of Wealth Talk Tuesdays. We got some fans of Mr. Breckenridge, and we got some fans of Mr. Brewer. I love it. I love it. I
Let's
love
do
it.
it.
Thank you
I
all for
couldn't
your
wait.
support. All right. So, oops. How? All right. All right. Let me see. Let me check my feed. All right. All right. So I think we're good to go. Hopefully the volume isn't too bad. If it is, I apologize. Okay. No echo now. Good to go. All right. Thank you, Amber. Thank you for that community engagement. All right. So welcome to another edition of Wealth Talk Tuesdays. Fortunate that we are able to continue this conversation where we actually engage with everyday real world entrepreneurs at various stages of their entrepreneurial career. And the entire idea is to talk about mindset. We're talking about entrepreneurship and we're talking about wealth. So depending on who we're interviewing, the conversation leans a little heavy one way or the other. But the idea for me is to do what I can to help empower you through your entrepreneurial journey, through your mindset journey, through your wealth building journey. And if you look at it objectively, if you look at it holistically, all three of those work and they intertwine to impact and affect each other. So hopefully tonight, if you came to get your mindset right, get your mindset together, hopefully we are able to give you a couple of nuggets. All right, a little back. I got back. Okay, couple nuggets. If you're here for the entrepreneurship piece, hopefully we can give you a little nuggets there. And of course, from a wealth building standpoint, hopefully we can give you a couple of nuggets there. And if you're watching again on some of the other platforms, we apologize for the echo. We'll try to do what we can to kind of manage that. But you can always watch the replay. The replay will be posted on all of the platforms. So hopefully when you watch the replay, maybe change platforms or just send me a message and I'll send you the actual video recording without the feedback. So with that being said, I want to give a warm digital welcome to my brother, to my family, to my cousin. We're going to talk about it. To my cousin, Mr. Kadeem Brewer. Before I give him his introduction, can we get this man a virtual round of applause? People, give him a virtual, get some emojis in the comments. Let me get some hand claps. Let me get some praised hands. Let me get some vocals. Let me get all that energy. We need that.
Family, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So Kadeem, let me give you your proper introduction, which we gotta circle back on. You know, I gotta pick on you a little bit. But you came through late in the clutch. I like it. You came through in the clutch, and that's what matters. But we'll definitely touch on that in a little bit. So here's a little bit about Kadeem. Kadeem Brewer Nunn is a native of Cleveland, Ohio. He's also a proud graduate of Winston-Salem State University, where he strongly believes in, while at the university, he displayed his belief for community activism while participating on a football team. And he was also a part of a program called BOSS, which stands for Building Outstanding Student Success. He also participated in giving back to his community through volunteering at local elementary schools and participating in Freedom School programs. We'll definitely have to touch on that. And during the early part of his career, and the brother's still young, so he's still in the early parts of his career, he continued his community activism as an educator and assistant athletic director in one of the local school districts. And he currently continues to work his passion with educational financial literacy through facilitating workshops, webinars, and seminars dedicated to helping families achieve generational wealth. Thank you. Welcome again, brother Kadeem.
Appreciate it, family. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Give us a good introduction, something we might not know about you, anything that you want to say to the good people watching tonight.
That like you said, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland stand up, we in the building. Ohio in the building. Yeah, came down south a few years ago in 2013 on a chance in a prayer. Played football for Winston State, and a friend reached out to me, I want to say early 2016, and that really sparked my entrepreneurial journey, which birthed what I do now. It all started to throw a text. So funny how things happen in divine timing. So just a little bit.
You said a friend reached out to you in 2016.
You said a friend reached out to you in 2016?
Yes, sir.
And
We're
what was that
lagging a little bit too. So let me know if you can't hear me.
I can hear you. We got a little bit of lag, but can you hear me? You said a friend reached out in 2016 and that kind of sparked your interest about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 2016, up until that point, kind of what was your mindset? What was your state of mind when it came to what you wanted to do with your life, how you wanted to earn a living, what your perspective was on just, income and producing the income and jobs and careers and things like that?
Good question. So when I transferred to Winston State, the only thing I wanted to do was play football, honestly, on a collegiate level. So that's the only thing that I had on my mind. After that, when I was approaching graduation and I realized professional sports wasn't in my realm or in my horizon, I was really faced with two decisions. And that was either join the service, join the military, or, teach, do what was the only thing I was known. My mother's an educator, my uncles, I have a few uncles that's in education. So I decided to go into education and utilize my degree. So that was my mind state before I received that text from a friend who birthed infinite banking with me to this day.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful, man, because it speaks to just kind of the reality of, what people kind of the decision points. I remember, it's funny you say that. I remember when it was time for me to go off to school, man, and it was like, I went off to run track, right? I went off to run track, and the only reason why I really went to college was because I had a track coach who was like, yo, you need to run on the next level. So I wasn't like gung-ho about going to college. I wasn't like, yo, I need to go to this university. I was a pretty good athlete. He saw potential, and part of his job, right, going beyond just being a coach, was making sure that, hey, my kids are moving on to the next level. And if it's going to be athletics that gets them there, or that's the conversation that's going to get them to go, then that's what it's going to be. And that's pretty much how I ended up going off to school. So, right. So when I went off, my perspective about career and income and all that type of stuff, it wasn't, really clear. And I think by just the standard nature of things, it's like, all right, you might go off to the military. For me, that wasn't, even though we have a lot of military folks in our family, I would have been a person that was like a conscientious objector, right? I was like, nah, that ain't gonna be me. But I had no clarity on what I wanted to do. So it's interesting to hear you say like, yo, it was like the military service or going off to school and then becoming an educator because the people around me, that's what they did. So it speaks volumes to the reality that proximity is not only power, but proximity is influential.
Very, extremely.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a product of my environment. That's all I knew, honestly. I didn't come from wealth. I wasn't thinking about wealth or generational wealth whatsoever. I was just saying, hey, what am I good at? And at that time, it was only sports. And what are the closest people around me? What are they doing? And that was my family. That was my mother. So that's really, honestly, that's all I knew.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely, man. Just jotting that down. And it's not that, there's anything wrong with the professions that people choose or professions that people chose, but it's also a reality of growing up, whether it was poor or middle class or low middle class, or particularly the types of professions that the people chose or the type of professions that people do around us. A lot of times we didn't grow up around entrepreneurs, right? And historically, when you look at the Black community, the entrepreneurs were the hustlers, right? And then over time, the hustlers became the entertainers, right? And if it wasn't the hustlers that became the entertainers, it was the sports athletes, right? So that speaks volumes to just the platform that we have today, because the goal, part of the goal is, hey, let's normalize this conversation of entrepreneurship. And by normalizing this conversation of entrepreneurship, we're able to, from our own experience, share that insight, share that knowledge with other people. And a lot of times on this show, we've talked about it over and over for the parents, whether you're an entrepreneur now, whether you want to get started, whether you're even thinking about it, the impact that that conversation has on your children and on your kids, and at least giving them the exposure to it so that at a later point in time, they can make their own decision or make a more informed decision about what they want to do potentially with their life.
And I wholeheartedly agree. And that's why conversations like this are needed in lower class, middle class, working class, because it gives options, multiple options. I'm sorry. It just gives the child multiple options other than college or the military.
Yeah, definitely more options, and just kind of has you looking at the world a little differently too.
Of course.
I can tell you it's funny when so I've traveled quite a bit around the world, and every time, and one thing, matter of fact, I just thought of this. One thing, the old man, when I say the old man, I talk about, my grandfather, right? Our grandfather. So one of the things he used to always tell me and remind me is that, I was able to travel around the world, and I didn't do it in the military, right? And he used to say that, and it wasn't until I got back, it wasn't until, I started, I would, anytime, even to this day, when you share, hey, I'm a Black man, I've been out of the country, I've been here, one of the first questions you get is, oh, were you in the military? And it's like, no. But hopefully, and unfortunately, the fact that the assumption is that our only exposure to the outside world will only come through the privilege of serving in the military, that within itself is a problem. So I'm glad we're having this conversation, man.
I agree, and it's long overdue. Me and you've been talking, communicating for a while, so it's time to give the people what they need.
Look at it. He hungry. What's up? We just had another one of our cousins hop in. What's up, Scott? I see you. Scott repping from Cleveland as well. That's what's up, man. I was looking at some stuff. Cleveland got a lot going on. All right, man. So let's talk a little bit about your days at Winston-Salem and kind of what that experience was like, also playing football. And, at one point in time, did you feel like you were going to go to the league, or what was?
I honestly thought before transferring to Winston State, that was my whole goal, honestly. But then I transferred in, and we wasn't the Alabama or anything like that. But we had some dogs. We had some top dogs at WSSU. And that's when I realized, I was like, league might not be in my horizon. I was like, might not these boys for real. A bunch of D1, I'm not going to say dropouts, but D1 transfers, and guys that was just really pretty good at the top of the game. So a year before I transferred in, they went to the national championship. So they were the top, they were ranked like number 3 in the nation. So this is like one of the top schools in Division II football. So it was a really, really great program. So then I slowly realized, that might not be for me. And that's okay. My profession might be in a different arena.
Yeah. And was that because of you felt like you was too short, you wasn't fast enough, you didn't hit hard enough? What was the limiting beliefs there?
Honestly, the level of competition, the way certain guys reacted, their intensity, the way they prepare for games, I realized it was just at a different level. So that honestly made me, and I'm glad I had a good roommate. We stayed on each other, because a lot of guys were dropping off like flies, and that could be a bar right there. But how certain guys approach their craft, they really took it serious, and we did have a few guys who had professional tryouts. One of them, a good friend of mine, Marcel Caber, we both came from Cleveland, Ohio, but he got invited to the Detroit Lions rookie camp, and he was there for a good amount of time. So I was playing with some top guys. So it just honestly, the level of competition made me fit my game up.
Yeah, which is a couple bars there, man. You talked about even though we're talking in the sports arena, you and I have talked about the business arena, right? And how they utilize that and compare that a lot to sports in terms of mindset and competition and things like that. But a couple of bars that you broke down is like, yo, the way that people prepare, you know, for the level of competition is different. And I think it's the same way with entrepreneurship, especially if you're talking about going from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurship mindset. The way you plan, the way you prepare, the way you execute, the way you respond, it's at a different level, right? It's at a different level. And then when you get to that level, then there's levels within that as well.
Of course, and that's one thing that I learned, and I'll let you know this, that I took this course called 90 Days of Focus by this legendary entrepreneur named Kevin Breckenridge. But honestly, I learned so much, and I paid for courses that he taught the same thing. So that's why I knew it was spot on. And yeah, it's literally not a game. It's that same focus, that same intensity, that same professionalism that you'll use on the field. You have to apply it to entrepreneurship if you're going to survive. Not only survive, but if you're going to thrive, you literally have to wake up every single day and go after it.
Yep, absolutely. And levels to that. So what he's talking about is last fall, I did a 13-week course called 90 Days of Focus. And it was focused on entrepreneurship, business, and really growing your business, implementing a systemized approach to growing your business. And it covered a lot of different areas of just being an entrepreneur. So that course, I offered it for free. The replay does cost, but for anybody watching tonight, if you want access to that course, it's 13 weeks. It was, man, I mean, every session was at least an hour. Some of them an hour 15, an hour and a half. So if you want access to that course over 13 hours, about 30, somewhere between, I say about 13 to 17 hours of just pure business training, conversation, back and forth Q&A, all that type of stuff. Just send me a message with your email address and I'll email you a link to the digital files and you can literally watch it from your iPhone. The thing about that though, is, and this is one of the keys to entrepreneurship, is that it's not about the information, right? I can make that information available to you for free. And I've made it available to for free to a lot of people, but it's whether or not you're going to make the time to consume the information that you need to consume and then start to apply that to your life. So statistically, right, like 10% might take action. It might be even lower than that. 10% might start it, 1% might finish it, but then that's where you get into that conversation of the 1% versus the 99%, right? It comes down to, again, that mindset, you know, the actions and the activities, and then ultimately your commitment to what you say that you want. And right now, depending on where you are, what you say you want, it may be absolutely clear. It may not be clear. You might be at a point where you just know that you need and you are looking for change, right? Like sometimes that's where we're at, like, yo, something has to change. But in order for that something to change or for that clarity to become absolutely clear, you got to fill your mind with new content and with new information. So that 90 days of focus is just one of those small deposits that, you know, I think Kadeem has also said, man, we think will help you out a little bit. So as you were, you know, doing your thing on the football field and you're starting to see like, yo, things are a little bit different. I may not actually be able to go to the league. What was, if you remember, what was the conversation like? What was the perspective like at that point between, you know, some of the athletes? Because at that point in time, I imagine a lot of athletes are realizing, right, like, yo, I might not go to the league. And if they took that, you know, we say the red or the green pill, or blue pill, they took one pill, was like, yo, I'm coming in, I'm going straight to the league and I'm just going to dog my academics, and then they realize, yo, I may not go to the league, and they don't really have the academic portion to fall back on. So do you kind of remember what things were like at that point, and how you started making your career decision and ultimately ended up working full time and going the standard career route?
So first things first, what I'm learning in this world, there's something called divine timing. And when you're living in purpose or acting in your purpose, some things just start to fall in place for you. And shout out to my brother on this call, Dominic Han. He's a great brother that operates this group called Brotherhood Breakfast. Kind of getting back in that motion. That's a real good brother right there. But it's certain things you don't have to do if you, and I don't want to get too deep in the faith or religion, but if you believe in God, then you understand that we all have purpose. I'm just a firm believer in that, and it will find you. You just got to know what you're looking at, because it can be right there in your face. So when I found out or figured out, what, that's not an option for me. Like I told you, what birthed my journey, honestly, is a friend reached out. And it was so random. It was so random too. She just randomly texted me out the blue. One of my good friends' girlfriend, Bronson Green, his girlfriend, placement, they're engaged right now. Shout out to them. But she texted me. She's like, hey, question, how do you invest? Do you invest, or do you have life insurance? Do you have these certain investments in place? Do you have an infinite investment? Do you have these things in place? I'm like, life insurance. What are you talking about? I'm thinking when I came out, I'm thinking old people in the 60s, 70s. I'm like, damn. I know I'm getting older, but so I couldn't really understand what I was talking about. So I feel like to say, and with a lot of people, a lot of people who I talk to, they as far as young people graduating from HBCUs and just coming out of undergrad. That's my small beef with them. Undergrad prepares you for a career field, but not really like after that your career or your profession. Really teach you how to invest, unless you're just in a financial services degree or anything of that nature. So I say all that to say is, when she reached out to me, I said, no, I don't. No one ever has reached out to me. Talk to me about this. So that really birthed my journey.
I got you.
So that birthed my journey. I would say, quote unquote, building generational wealth, because no one has ever reached out to me to talk about that. I didn't even know that was a game.
Yeah, that's man, you said a lot there. So a couple things, we'll try to unpack it a little bit, man. So
I know.
One of the things, I know, no, it's cool, man. That's what the conversation is for. So my job is to try to, break it down, pull it apart, and let's dissect it a little bit. So one of the things you talked about initially somebody else outside of you, right, reached out and had a message for you. And depending on where you are or where you were at that time mentally, you either processed it as an opportunity, or you processed it and you was like, maybe this isn't for me right now, or it doesn't make sense, whatever the case may be, right? I think that's the natural process that we all go through. We hear something that's foreign to us from some type of source, we got to process it. And then one of the things you mentioned, right, divine timing, is it the time for us? Is that information right for us at that point in time in our life? Because sometimes, even with tonight, there might be a piece of information that somebody hears and it's going to hit that subconscious, but it's going to go right over their head, right? But at a later point in time, that information is going to circle back around when it's right for that person at the right time in their life. So, for example, one of the things you said too, hey, somebody reached out to me, 6 years ago talking about this. And it took how much time until you fully embrace that as, right, your opportunity in a way that you can express your passion? It wasn't immediate, right? It took It took some time. So tell us a little bit about the time that it took for you to process that and decide that, hey, this is something I want to be, that I'm passionate about and that I want to pursue.
So it took me at least when she first reached out to me, Alexis, it took me at least about 3 years of nonstop just studying the right investments. How does this thing called infinite banking, how does it work? How does it operate? And I'm not gonna lie to you, it took trial and error at different companies and being told no. And it's like, hey, no, you can't do that. It's like, no, your company doesn't do that. It doesn't mean this can't be done. So like I said, honestly, it took trial and error to learn these different asset classes, um, how to invest, where to put your money, learning about stock market declines and things of that nature, learning where to put your money outside the market that never declines, you never lose interest on it, never goes backwards. Um, so it definitely took me at least about 3 years. And what's funny in that third year, so this is right before the pandemic in 2020, a buddy of mine who was with this company so it was a lot of trial and error. But a buddy of mine who was a fiduciary, he was like, "Hey man, it's time, Bill. You could be spreading this message on a larger level and connecting with people and helping people help really implement generational wealth." So that's when it truly started for me, 2020, right before the pandemic.
Mhm. So I'm glad when I asked you how long it took, you didn't say like, oh man, it was like 3 days, right? Like at that point in time, like right, like it took time. And you said, yo, it took 3 years, about 3 years of legitimate study, of legitimate, trying to understand. It took, trial and error. I think when it comes to entrepreneurship in general, it takes trial and error. And then when you throw in the concept or the idea of investing, it definitely takes trial and error. And although we're talking in the context of, specific investment vehicles right now, right, with infinite banking, there is a wide world of investing, right, of traditional investing, alternative investing. It is as wide as the world is round, right? So in order for you to go from either, if you're talking employee to employer or employee to entrepreneurship mindset, or you're talking about going from, just a 401k investor where you just make an allocation and you don't know anything about it to, talking about infinite banking or real estate or whatever the case may be, it takes diligent effort for you to study and to learn. And I got a degree in accounting. So I came out of the College of Business, a very good college of business, right? A very good college of business. But college still isn't designed to teach you, to become an investor, right? I was an accountant, right? I was learning to count the beans for somebody else's business, right? So you may learn about, certain topics and concepts, but the type of financial empowerment as an individual is not something that's really taught in the school system, whether it be HBCU or predominantly white institution. That's just not the mechanism of how the university is set up, unless it's a program specific to entrepreneurship. I didn't go through a program like that, so I still can't vouch for that. But traditionally, for the most part, that's not what that institution is designed for. So as individuals, right? So as individuals, we have to take it upon ourselves to put in that diligent effort, put in that time, put in that exercise to learn for ourselves. And not only, do we have to do it, but it's important that you do it because it empowers you in so many ways to take control over how you view money, what you do with money, what you understand your options to be with money, because part of it is just understanding the thought process, the mindset, the philosophies, the options, right? You mentioned options. All of that takes education, and it takes time. It takes time. So that's good, man. Yeah, definitely trial and error. So let's see, it's about 7:35. Let's transition a little bit, and we may bounce back, but let's transition a little bit to talk about the journey of where you are now, particularly about what do you do for a living now, and what is this concept of infinite banking, as you see it and as you have experienced it, and why do you think it's a vehicle of wealthy individuals, and how are wealthy individuals using it to their advantage?
But you never asked. I'm about to jump on my chair.
Yeah, jump out of seat. Like I've been waiting.
I'm hungry. Look at my jobs like, let's get it in. The people want the meat. They want how can I invest? How can I get to it? All right. So what do I do now? All right, guys. So I'm a financial representative for the extremely prestigious company, but I can broker for other companies as well. All right. So what we do is holistic financial planning. All right. So, but what I teach people, what I love the most about it, because financial planning, when they say that, guys, that means retirement. All right. So that means they're trying to make sure that you are well ahead of inflation, well ahead of taxes, and that you can live the lifestyle that you want to live in retirement, so you won't have to get a part-time job or anything of that nature. All right, that's a portion of holistic finance. All right, so infinite banking. What is it? What is it? So infinite banking, guys, is the number one, in my opinion, tool source to get to generational wealth, guys. You got to hear me out. Generational wealth, guys. It's the number one tool. Why is it the number one tool? Because through a properly structured infinite bank, guys, guess what? It will never expire. It is not tied to no stock market. You can never lose money. Ever. Tell me where you can find it. Well, it's a real thing.
All right, so we're gonna help this brother unpack that a little bit. What's up, Rob? Rob in the building. All right, we're gonna help my brother unpack it a little bit. We gotta unpack it. We got to do our job. We got to do our job. All right, so he started out. He said, he does holistic financial planning, right? Holistic. When you think of holistic, it's a full circle, right? It's a 360. It's all around, looking at all angles. So one of the things you mentioned is through this holistic planning, we help you stay ahead of, if I believe I got this right, stay ahead of expenses and inflation. All right. So let's stop there, and let's talk about this idea of staying ahead of expenses and staying ahead of inflation, especially this is a good point to touch on right now, because inflation is the highest it's been in over 40 years. Expenses are going up. So many of you can relate to this right now, even if you aren't retired or even close to retirement. So talk to us a little bit about what you mean by staying ahead of expenses and inflation.
So like I said, with holistic financial planning, guys, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. So the first thing to do, all right, in this process, to figure out, because everyone is different. I get it. We all want financial security at the end of the day. I get we all want that looks different for each individual. All right. So how you stay ahead is you get the main information, what you need. Of course, you encounter the individual, and you figure out how can we utilize these strategic tax for the vehicle, so we can stay ahead of what we just said, inflation, taxes in the future. Because no one knows where's it going to be at or what's it going to be, but we do know that it's going to be there. I'm talking about inflation, so we try to hedge it.
Okay, I'm just jotting this down. I got you. Trying to figure out how I got to unpack this, brother. All right, so now one thing you mentioned is financial security means something different to different people, right? And when we talk about financial security, one, I want to say let's start off with kind of using that in a synonymous term where we're talking about financial goals. All right. And no matter where you are right now, right? No matter where you are right now, because I'm pretty sure we got people at all different spectrums of life. Some done been up, some done been down, some ain't never went up, some ain't never been down yet, right? All the whole, the whole spectrum. It's a whole lot of, when this market changes, it's going to be a lot of people that, but anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So listen.
It's the same conversation because it will. Some people are directly in the market, and what I'm learning or noticing with my generation, guys, we have to, and of course we're going to continue this conversation, but we have to dispel that instant gratification. All right?
Oh man, what?
It doesn't exist. A lot of people, and we ask this question when it comes to investing, but what is your risk tolerance? All right, are you safe, aggressive, home run, conservative? So it ultimately depends on the individual. What is your risk tolerance? But you have to understand this, my people. Understand this, my millennials, my Gen Zs, everyone. Understand this instant gratification, guys, because I know the hype on social media, but it just does not happen overnight. It doesn't happen like that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, so let's backtrack. All right. Financial security means something different to everyone. We'll use that synonymous with your financial goals are different per person. But regardless of what your financial goals may be, right? Because there's, we can talk about that and go into depth, right? We done came from poverty, so we can talk about the whole spectrum from the bottom right to the top. But one thing that you cannot escape, right? You cannot escape this. And I'm a little bit older than Kadeem. We interact with different types of clients, some similar, some different. We have different angles in our industries and different perspectives and things like that. But one thing that you cannot escape the reality. I talk to my wife, me and my wife talk about this all the time. You cannot escape the reality of what life costs. All right. You cannot escape the reality. And having come from, poverty and being poor, one of the things that I'm always amazed at, and one thing that I'm constantly fighting, right, is part of that poverty mindset, is the reality of what life costs. Because if you come from a poor background, most of the time you went without the things that were needed, not just the things that you wanted, but the things that were needed. So as you continue to grow in your own individual life, you get confronted with the reality of what life costs. So if your financial goal, right, and your financial goal, your sense of financial security is different from the next person, that's okay. But is it at least on par with the minimum realities of what life costs in order for you to adequately provide for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, for the people that you support, right? So I say that to say, I challenge you to ask yourself, what is my financial goal? My financial goal now, at 40, at 45, at 50, at 60, if you take care of yourself, you should live until you 80, 70, 80, or 90. So starting to develop clarity on what you want your life to look like at these various stages will help you develop the financial clarity, the financial goals, and develop a sense of financial security that you can then start to aim at and partner with individuals like Kadeem who have the tools and the resources to help you navigate the waters and bring more of a formalized process to figuring out what is it going to take in order for you to get there. And I'll tell you this, and this is one of the reasons why we do Wealth Talk Tuesdays. One of the reasons why we focus heavily on entrepreneurship is because the reality is, if you are going to adequately provide, and by adequately provide, that could be subjective too. But I'll tell you, it's a difference between being thin and malnutrition and getting adequate nutrition, right? For two different people, that could mean two different things. But when you look at the scientifics behind it and the numbers, it really only means one thing. You're either getting the proper nutrition that your body needs, right? Or you're not. So some things can be debated, some things can't. But entrepreneurship, just from your everyday job, I'm not telling you to quit your job and go out and be a full-time entrepreneur, but what I am telling you is to adopt the principles of entrepreneurship so that you can leverage the different tools and vehicles that you have at your disposal. And one of those may be your full-time job, so that you can implement these ideas of investing, these ideas of ownership, so that you can ultimately position yourself to be able to meet the financial demands over the course of your lifetime, not just today, not just tomorrow, but definitely and ultimately in your aging years when active work may no longer financially support you at the same level that it supports you today.
And one thing I just heard that stuck with me, it was a lot. You really just went in, but leverage, how to leverage these financial vehicles, these tools, leverage these different asset classes, learning. So, and that's what I love about infinite banking. It's a tax-free vehicle that you can earn on the same dollar twice.
Okay. So we're gonna have to get you to do a formal presentation, brother, because I see I need to get you in the formal presentation mode. All right. So So when you say vehicle, right? You say this is a vehicle, it's tax advantage. What do you mean by vehicle? What is the structure of the vehicle itself?
All right, so the structure, infinite banking down, so it's a concept, all right? It's a concept. So it's a specially designed insurance contract. All right. It's a specially designed insurance contract. All right. That has a guaranteed rate of return. All right. And it's not tied to the market. All right. So you will never lose money in this contract. All right. It has cash value attached to it. All right. With a company that I love to work with, this grows at 5.5%. All right. Remember, it's not tied to a market. All right. So think of it as a built-in retirement plan, or something that can supplement, built-in supplemental return for some people. Or for an example, you can use it to go invest, because remember I said you can earn multiple rates of return on the same dollar. So by running money through this infinite bank and leveraging it to buy an asset, for an example, such as multifamily real estate, stocks, whatever that looks like for you, something that you receive passive income on.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So one, it's an insurance vehicle, right? So it's insurance, and then it provides you with a standard rate of return. At this point, 5.5%. If I remember correctly, man, I think it was something like the interest rate has always been at a certain level for at least the last 100 years or something. It's an extremely stable rate of return. But people may say, well, it's only 5.5%. That's not, a lot in terms of the return on investment for the money itself. But then you supplemented that and said, hey, you can utilize this money to invest in other vehicles where you're able to earn a return twice. And by investing the money that you're already getting a return on, you're then able to invest it in other vehicles where you may be able to get a higher rate of return. So if your initial idea is like five, because again, who depends on who's watching, 5.5% is not a lot of money or a high rate of return, but that does keep you ahead of inflation year to year, right? 5.5% is going to keep you above the usual 2 to 3%. But then you also have the ability to invest those funds in other vehicles that also provide a rate of return.
Agree. Also, and that was just one way. Another way is through something called an IUL. So IUL is Index Universal Life. So, like I said, properly structured max fund. So the main thing is it has to be properly structured. If it's not properly structured, it's not going to work. For one. For two, there's certain companies that have uncapped gains, and there's certain companies that have capped gains. So you can, if the rate of the interest rate is what you're solely focused on, because I also recommend the financial strength of the company, which you can look at. But if the interest rate, if that's what you're focused on, then hey, this might be a better vehicle for you. Uncapped gains. So you're participating in all of the upside, not the downside of the market.
All right, so we got a question. Does the rate stay the same over time or does it fluctuate?
So what do they mean when they say rate? That's a good question. What do you mean when you say rate? Because how much you pay?
The 5.5%.
Oh, the 5.5%? Yes. 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 So it can never go down. It will never go down. So and also, like I said, listen, it depends on which company that you go through. Because like I said, there's two ways you can go about this. Either through a especially design insurance contract, or you can go through an IUL, properly structured IUL. So there's two ways. Got 5.5. Yeah, depending on which company you go with.
And another thing that you had mentioned tax-free. So when it comes to, and this may answer my own question. I think one of the questions I asked is why is it, if to the best that you can answer it, why is it a preferred vehicle of wealthy people? But when you, so in the space that I'm in, commercial real estate is used as a cash wealth preservation tool. It holds value. It has built-in mechanisms from a tax standpoint that allows people to be able to offset different types of income and capital gains and things like that. So one of the big strategies of people who are trying to hold on to their wealth is reducing and eliminating their tax burden, because taxes will often be the biggest expense that you're going to pay on your money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he says this is a tax advantaged vehicle, if it's set up properly, that right there is a gem. That's an entryway into the ultimate strategy of how people and what they really focus on when it comes to building wealth, trying to reduce and eliminate their taxes, which depending on what your political theory is, I'll say that, political theory is different from financial theory. So you may have to, separate the two or make an adjustment on how you kind of view things. But ultimately, tax strategy plays a big role in the wealth creation, growth and preservation philosophy of when it comes to your personal bank account.
So to answer that, I just would like to say this, guys. When you look at the wealthy, and this is public information, you can look online, guys. The Rockefellers did it. Gary Gunderson has a book called "What Would the Rockefellers Do?" That goes a little bit deep about traditional 401ks. But the main point is, guys, Walt Disney did it. A lot of these major companies utilize this business. Matter of fact, banks, and it's backed by the FDIC. Look this up when you go on any bank. Banks use this, and this is on their tier one asset classification. All right, infinite banking. All right, especially design insurance contracts, because it's one, like I told you, not tied to, or depends, not directly tied to, and it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. Where else are you going to find these type of returns, and what other investment that has no keyword, no volatility? So why do they do it? Because it's safe and it's guaranteed and it has a death benefit attached to it.
And not only that, based on what you said and how you're able to run the money through, and of course it being a bank, right? This banking concept, which We didn't dig into too much, but if you have a second, you can kind of talk about the borrowing features, right? There's some borrowing features that are built into it. But the idea of a bank is, right, you go to the bank, you access money, you use that money for whatever you're going to use it for. In terms of, the wealth creation, if you're going to take that money and invest it in certain vehicles that are going to produce, more income, then you're leveraging the financial resources of the bank in order for you to create, additional opportunity for yourself. So in the case of you thinking about your own bank, well, while your money is sitting in this bank, it has a rate of return that it's getting, which if you talk about it, my wife is a banker, and sometimes I just shake my head when I'm serious. It's mind boggling, because people will put hundreds of thousands of dollars, they'll put millions of dollars in these CD accounts, or they'll have them sitting in regular savings accounts, and they're literally getting pretty much 0% interest, 0% interest on their money, primarily because they don't know what else to do with it. So if you're in that position and you have no idea what else to do with your capital, one option may be to get with this brother, discuss your situation, and find out if storing your funds within the structure, within the concept of this vehicle, will provide more value and more options to you than just putting it in a normal bank account or CD, of which you are getting pretty much absolutely nothing. And in fact, mathematically, you're losing money, because again, what we talked about earlier, the increase of expenses and the increase in inflation.
Oh, and it's tough that banks don't even teach this.
No.
They do it, but they don't teach it. As these top corporations, they do it, but of course they're not going to teach it, because it's something called investors, producers, and consumers, and they want to keep certain people in that consumption mind state. This is not a new concept. This has been around for years, generations, guys. But if I could go a little bit deep on when you set up or properly structure that infinite bank. So the whole point is, like I said, it has a death benefit tied to it. You structure it right, you will never lose interest. It will always gain forever. And I have a buddy on here, and I showed him the illustrations, and majority of my clients, you can grow this infinite bank. Guess what? Have this investment, and you can stop paying for it. I'll get into the weeds of that later. But for an example, the whole point of setting up the infinite bank is leverage. All right. We want to leverage it to what I said earlier, buy an asset. All right. Buy an asset. And I'm using a small example, such as real estate. All right. So let's just say we got a decent amount of money that we've been putting in our infinite bank. All right. We want to leverage it to go make a down payment on a duplex. Yeah, because you're in a multifamily. Right. So a duplex or the right duplex. Now, remember I said you can spend or earn on that same dollar twice. This can get on the right duplex, as you know, this can give you 4 rates of return. One is cash flow. 2, mortgage interest write-off. 3, the appreciation of the asset on your tax return. And guess what? The renter pays it back. Anything that you borrowed, you took out of your infinite bank, the renter pays that. Not you.
I throw another one in there, the debt pay down. The debt pay down over time. And so your equity increases.
So guess what? This literally mimics what the bank does with the mortgage.
Yeah. That's why you become
the cat's out the bag. Like,
well, it's all advanced strategy. So not even advanced and just strategy, period. One of the things we started out talking about, we started talking about the journey of basically financial education, and depending on where you started, and no matter if you heard it in passing or you didn't, until your mind has a sufficient level of understanding and information in a particular area, is not going to fully process or fully understand or fully get how to apply certain things to your life. So you say the cat is out of the bag, but it's out of the bag in a room full of trash bags, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just like, you got so many bags you got to open up, because now we're talking about, okay, well, what investment vehicle do I invest in?
Yep.
And then do I have expertise in that? Right? Or where do I get expertise in that? So it is one component of a lengthy education process that you have to go through. And it can be boring, it could be painful, it can be long. We mentioned earlier, 3 years of you studying just that particular aspect of financial education. So it takes time, but if you want to get to a certain point, and one thing I like that you had mentioned earlier, instant gratification, right? So yes, Instagram will tell you can do this, you can do that, it'll be this, it'll be that. And one thing, and I think I mentioned this on our 90 Days of Focus, and we got to kind of wrap up. Well, one is 8:01. So first, I want to thank everyone for logging on. We usually only go for an hour. So if you have to log off, I totally understand. Just make sure you reach out to Kadeem on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching, and make sure you set up a consultation. Set up a conversation. I won't even put the pressure on you. Just connect with the brother. You ain't got to set nothing up. Just connect with him. Follow him, like him, connect with him, so that over time you can build that relationship and get enough information so that you can make the strategy moves that you need to make, so that when you're ready to get assistance, you know who to go to. Part of this process is building your financial team of advisors and knowing who to go to for the different things that you need. So hopefully we have been able to identify an individual in this particular area of your financial advisory team that you can now reach out to when you have questions, when you're ready to move forward. So thank you for logging on. Now, in terms of moving on, I want to try to wrap this up. I still got daddy duties and all that good stuff. So, and I know you do too, brother. We gotta take care of the family. So, man, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, just financial education, the financial journey, and it doesn't happen overnight, right? So, where I am, and just looking at studying companies, I study. You got to study companies. You got to study all of these different things. Business knowledge and education matters, but when you look at it, and you look at enterprises that endure, enterprises that are around for a long time, and we're talking about businesses and enterprises that were started, let's say, for example, started by the person who's still alive and who still may be running a company. We're talking decades of building. Decades of building. In my space, I was reflecting on this the other day. I've met billionaires who are second, third, and fourth generation. Families been building cities for almost 200 years. Okay, so you might see somebody winning on Instagram for a 5-year stretch, maybe a 10-year stretch, but we're talking about decades. Then we're talking over 100 years.
Right? I can say this real quick. So setting this up, because he's completely right. He's completely right. But guess what? First of all, he's completely right, because generational wealth can be gone in one generation if the financial literacy isn't back there. So whoever you left that wealth with, they can blow it. Literally. So I understand that's the second step of the process. That's why we have these conversations, and there's a lot of people having these conversations on social media that I love. But guys, literally taking that step, one generation. Literally, you could change this to one generation. All you need is opportunity. But when I say it doesn't expire, it's all on how you structure it. The death benefit does not expire. And everybody can't do that. All right. Everyone can't do that, because some have terms. It could be a 20-year term, 35-year term, or you renew, and it's usually an arm and a leg. But I like to say it's properly structured. So that's the key. When you get with these people, properly structured when we talk about generate, because one generational wealth can change. All right. The next part, set up trust, but we're not getting deep into it. But literally, it takes time. It takes time. But literally, that one opportunity. So what I like to tell clients, what would you do with $100,000? You just inherited that from your grandmother, from your grandfather. Huh? When I talk to people, I ask them, are you anticipating an inheritance? A majority of the clients, well, they're not. They're not. But guys, you can change. This is change. And you don't need a lot of cash to get started. One generation.
I like it. I like it. So I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. You need a little bit more than opportunity. You need hard work, dedication, commitment, vision, focus. You need that grind in you, right? We talked about it on 90 Days of Focus. You need that beast, you need that dog. You got to be able to withstand the fire. It's funny, man. The old man used to tell me, he told me at one point, the fire got too hot. And because he had a family, he had a big family, but because the fire got too hot, he couldn't continue on. He felt like he couldn't continue on with some of the things that he was doing. And I always try to break down and understand these different things that he said, because it didn't always have context. But it may not be exactly what he meant, but it's gonna get hot, right? That journey is gonna get hot. But for everybody watching, Kadeem is absolutely right. One generation, but you got to be willing to follow your dream. You got to be willing to follow your vision. And you got to be willing to stand 10 toes down in that thing again for decades. You talk about time, you talk about patience. Listen, and I'm gonna be real with you. It's gonna take you 20 years just to really be even considered a veteran maybe in your game. It's people. I mean, I look at people like, yo, I put 40 years in this industry. I put 50 years in this industry, right? That's the type of longevity that it takes for you to really traverse one generation and build something out. A beautiful example of that, Ketanji Brown Johnson, who is being selected, going through her Senate confirmation hearings for Supreme Court Justice. And her story is beautiful, building on the backs of people that just been grinding and putting in work. So for you got to grind and put in the work. And then even if you can't pass the money behind, more importantly, being able to pass that knowledge behind. And that's how we started this thing, talking about the importance of conversation and exposure and being in the right environment, because the knowledge is more important and it's more valuable than the money itself, right? So I'll end with that. Kadeem, brother, you want to say any parting words before we get off of here?
No, this is the first of many. It's the first, but not the last. So I appreciate you for even inviting me on Wealth Talk Tuesday, so I can build with your congregation, with the Wealth Squad, and hopefully we can continue to build generational wealth through multi-families and infinite banks.
Absolutely. All right, man. It's been a great conversation. I'm glad we was able to get this collaboration together. Everyone, I hope you all have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Peace.